Think it says, oh, yep, yeah, we go. We are officially streaming to Facebook. Hello, Facebook. I'm going to triple check here on my end that it's working, and it appears that it is. All right, sweet. Hey guys, if you're logging into Facebook or watching the replay of this, I'm just getting set up, the tech stuff, not my strength, but if you are watching the replay, you might need to fast forward 30 seconds or so. Here we go. Hi, Jody. I think who I just see join us. Jody? Yes. Hey, Jody. All right. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good. I know we had several folks. I just made it available. We got folks joining us on Facebook, watching the live stream there. I opened up the Zoom room if anybody wanted to interact and ask questions and attend here, which we've got several of you on with me that way. So very good. I'm gonna get started here. I'll be letting more folks in as they request. But I was just talking with a few of you and saying that this is something that I wish I had access to with somebody in my world that maybe had just written a book as I was getting ready to write mine. So all good, but I just want to start by saying thank you for joining and showing interest. I'm excited to learn from all of you what book you intend on writing. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. What books you intend on writing, or if it's been keeping you awake at night, it's been this idea stirring in your soul for years, like it was mine. I'm just here to share a journey. I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. If I even share one thing that benefits you, I consider that a success, but don't let me fool you. I don't know what I'm doing still to this day, but while it's fresh, I thought it might be helpful to share it with others. Is that all right? Cool. And those of you on Facebook, I can't multitask, man. If you're leaving comments and asking questions on Facebook, I promise later to circle back and answer those. But for now, I'm just going to stick with my live audience here on Zoom, if that's all right. Okay, so if all of you would, you don't have to because I understand, but I'm just naturally curious. Either put in the chat here on Zoom or in the comments section if you want what your book idea is. Now, you don't have to because some of you don't want to give away the goods. I get that. But I'm curious, like, what if you had a book idea? What are you thinking for the title? What's the book about? I would love to know what that is for all of you before we get rocking and rolling here. Ooh, Tiffany, Activated Faith. Love that. Clay, Power or Belief. Solid. I'd read that. I'd read both of those all day long. And I can't, again, if you're commenting on Facebook, I'll check you later. Hey, Martha. So yeah, if you guys want, please put in the chat or the comment section what your book idea, concept, or even just the title is that you've been stirring to write or are in the process of writing. I want to be able to support you the same way that you guys have supported me and encourage you to get it done. So, John, oh, how to use vacation rentals to build financial security for you and your family. Come
We
on
do.
now. Help the little guy out, man. I need that now. Write the book, brother.
It's what we do. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, very good. All right, so here's how today's going to go. Just I needed some sort of outline or some sort of thing so I didn't bounce all over the place. I'm going to share a little bit of the backstory. Then I'll go into the moment of commitment when I actually finally decided to write the damn thing. What the lead up to the process looked like. Then I will share the, excuse me, the week itself. Yes, I wrote the book in a week and I'll explain all of that and why. Then I'll talk a little bit about finding professional help. Some of you are already decided you want to do self-publishing. That's cool. Others, you may want to go the professional route like I did, and I'll talk to you about that. Then, of course, I'll talk to what I would do differently and mistakes I might avoid next time and open it up to any questions. We can save questions to the end. I'll happily answer some along the way as they're timely and relevant. So that's what I've got for today. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Oh, is that your book title, Jody? P.S. I love you, self-prioritizing?
It's what I'm playing with, yeah.
Oh, I love it. And then Laura Dahl says, don't have the title yet, but an autobiographical about failing forward. You guys, I'm reacting the same way people reacted to me when I told them about my book. Yeah, you need it. The world needs what you have to offer. Let's get it done. Martha, one more. The Spy Who Broke Me, a memoir. Oh my God, so mysterious. Your titles are genius, you guys. Really good. Okay, so let's get into the good, bad, the ugly. So, steps to writing a book. Finally, a little bit of the backstory. So, I realized early on that I wanted to leave a legacy for my children. That was my driving force, right? At the moment of recording this, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old who's soon to be 9 next month. And I had this stirring of what can I do that when dad is no longer here, that I could leave them words of wisdom. So part of that is I still journal to them this day and they don't know it, but one day, like high school graduation or something, I will hand them that journal. But in addition to that, my experience in business and just going through life, which is a journey, it's hard. I wanted to document that and capture that, which I thought, hey, you know what better way than doing that in the form of a book? So I knew as they were being born or even before they were being born that I wanted to do this. And all the lessons that they were teaching me as a young parent and transferring that into the work that I do on a daily basis. I don't believe, and this is just a personal belief, in separating, oh, I need to let folks in separating work from personal life. I think that's an impossible battle. I try to integrate my work into my personal life. That's why my kids come with me to events that we host with the locker room and stuff, because I want them being a part of it and growing up seeing and knowing what mom and dad do versus me trying to separate them constantly. I don't know if that's anybody else out there or not. So with that said, I wanted to take the lessons they were teaching me and combine those into business or life lessons. I did not, and I still do not care to this very day, even though it's now becoming more tempting. My motivation was not being on a bestseller list. I did not care if I sold a single book or not. It just wasn't my motivation. Now, some of you it might be, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not hating on that. But for me, it wasn't. And I think for all of you listening to this right now, you need to understand, why am I doing this? What is this about? You know, not just who is the audience and who's it intended for and what are my goals and having an online merch shop and whatever you want to do from this, please get clear on why and who it's designed for. So for me, it was about leaving a legacy, a book that my children, my grandchildren, and generations to come could read and gain wisdom from, even if I wasn't here anymore. Now, I put it off for 8 consecutive years with painful reminders each year when I did my annual goal setting exercise. So every year on January 1st, when I wake up, I have a letter that I grab underneath my bed from the previous year, and I read that. And then I write my new letter and stuff it underneath my bed only to read the following year. Well, guess what? Every year when I read that letter to myself for 8 consecutive freaking years, it said, this is the year I'm going to write the book and so forth. And it never happened. It was so painful year after year to open that thing up and say, yet another year went by that I didn't do what I said I was going to do. Oh, but I accomplished all these things. I went on that vacation, but that damn book. Okay. So I put this thing off. Anybody else out there? Leave me a heart, a comment, or something if you are putting this thing off, because you know in your heart, your soul, it's stirring that you need to do this. It's that tap on the shoulder. And yet when you consider, well, I don't know where to start, or all the work that it entails, it intimidates you and paralyzes you that you just don't do it. Yeah, we've got Tiffany, 5 years. Laura says the same. Yes. Yes. I think that's a lot of people. So the moment of commitment. When it was enough, and when enough was enough, I realized, because, adulting is hard. Now I'm going to a local attorney drafting up a will. Oh my gosh, talking about life insurance, like the adult things you should do to protect yourself and your family and your kids. Some of those things really spoke to me of like, golly, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. It's like, oh, it'll never happen to me. And yet friend after friend is getting sick, stricken with cancer, passing away. It's like life has a way of hitting you, smacking you upside the face sometimes. So what was missing for me was a clear sense of healthy reality and urgency and the accountability to come along with it. So what I ended up doing was shout out to Kit Fusil, my business partner in the TLR Leadership and Coaching Academy. It was going through the ICF process there that I shared with my peers my goal of writing a book. And I finally had my feet held to the fire. There was no more waiting. I couldn't turn back. I went public with my intentions on social media, not to mention going public with my peer group of fellow coaches, about 15, 20 people strong. When you put yourself out there like that and are willing to be held accountable, that once and for all, your feet are going to be held to the fire and get this thing done. That for me was the straw that broke the camel's back. So some of you have been stewing on this idea like I was for years, but I didn't really tell a whole lot of people about it. Certainly didn't go public about it on social media, and certainly wasn't ready or willing to accept accountability from others to commit and decide to get the thing done. So what happened was, through their coaching back to me, I decided the first step was to select a date. All right. It was June or July of last year was the date I selected. At the time, it was like 2 or 3 months out because I knew I had some travel and some other things, and I didn't want to just pick a number or a date from thin air. I wanted it to mean something, and I was going to commit to it. So while I was doing that, of course, I discussed it with my wife, my family, because what worked best for me, I knew myself and how I work, was that I needed to disappear into solitary confinement for 1 week. That's what I did. I had to be in the zone, no distractions, and just fully immersed in this thing, right? I don't work well when some of you might go the route of, oh, I'm just going to write 10 pages a day. I'm going to write every day for 30 minutes. I don't do that way, right? So my tip to you is you need to understand yourself and how you work and go there. I knew if I was able to disappear for just 1 week, and it was going to be hell week in the most beautiful sense possible, that I could crank this thing out. And that's exactly what I did. So from there, I talked to my family, I picked the date, I committed to an entire week of disappearing from the face of the planet to get this thing done. What I did was I got an Airbnb on the Wisconsin River because I'm a rustic guy. I find my inspiration around water and rustic settings. I did not need the best internet access. I needed a laptop. And when I looked up and scanned the horizon, I wanted to be inspired. For some of you, maybe that's a beach. Maybe it's just like me. It's in a rustic cabin somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I mean, hokey or not, know how you work, find wherever it is your inspiration is, and go there. Be there, be fully present there. So for me, it was a week-long rental in an Airbnb, an hour away from my home. So it felt like I was going somewhere with a beautiful landscape of the Wisconsin River and the bluffs in the background, right? So that was the moment of commitment leading up to all of this. Now the lead up. So I had a commitment. I went public with it. I had a date. Money was paid for. The Airbnb, there was no turning back now. Here's where we get a little crunchy, okay? Pre-work exercises. The 5 W and H questions. So you can write these down if you want. And you can Google this stuff, I'm sure, too. But first thing was, who is my audience? That's one of the 5 W or H questions. Who is your audience? For example, for me, I struggled with this. I just knew what I wanted to write, but I never considered who my audience was that actually would want to pick up the book because I never focused on book sales in the first place. But it ends up, it's for business leaders, those who are seeking personal growth. I could see parents actually buying the book and having a kind of fun little read with it. Or just anybody, frankly, who's feeling a little stuck and searching for a breakthrough moment. That was, and even though it's still vague, the best I could do to put into words of who this was for, who the audience was, right? So answer that for yourself. Who's your audience? Number 2, what do I want to communicate? There's 5 questions. That's the second one. What do I want to communicate? So in other words, what is your desired outcome that you want the reader to take away? What topics must you hit on and represent in your chapters? Right? So, for example, I chose Cannonball, the 12 success principles that children can teach us about life and business. So, one of the things I intended to communicate and the desired outcome I wanted folks to walk away with was how children can teach us a lot of lessons. And then also taking our own experiences and pulling out those lessons so we can lead a life of success, lead a life of fulfillment, lead a life of significance. That's what I wanted to communicate or pour into others. If I did my job and 230 something pages later, somebody walked away, what's that one sentence that I would want them to say about my book? That's essentially, what are you trying to communicate? Third question, when? So when is the time frame that this book is referencing? Or not, maybe it's what stage of life or business is the book for or speaking to? But there's a moment in time, there's a when that you need to consider, more than likely, unless it's a, fictional book or something. So again, for mine, just to give you an example, it's capturing lessons from childhood and extracting them of how they can be used in adulthood. That was the kind of dichotomy that I was going to play off of to answer the question of when. All of us can date back or think back to a time when we were young, or, whatever the case may be. It's taking something that we've all lived, we've all experienced, and making it in a relatable, fun, love, storytelling fashion. Number 4, where? Where is the content most relevant? Kind of goes back to like the who, right? Where is the content most relevant? For example, is it leaders struggling with finding a breakthrough? Is it those who are entrepreneurs starting their entrepreneurial journey? Where's the content most relevant? Is it for parents wanting to be better with young children at a certain stage of life? I don't know. But where does your content fit in? If you're not getting this, find your niche is a simple way of explaining this. Because if you're trying to speak to everybody everywhere, you're going to end up speaking to nobody. Your audience needs to say, when they're reading it, you're talking to me. This person, this author is talking to me. I can see myself in their stories. That's why all of this is important. You need to connect. The last or second to last one is, why is it important for you to write this book? Get clear with yourself. I explained some of that for me a little bit earlier, but why is it important to you write this book? Why should the audience even care about what you have to say? Right? Why is it important to you? Excuse me. And why should the audience even care? For me, as I've said already, legacy. I work with in the profession that I'm in with coaching and consulting and speaking. I see a lot of folks, and it's sad, a lot of adults who lose sight of their dreams and begin to settle. And I thought my book could be a wake-up call for those people where they have that inner drive still, that childlike faith just tugging at their heart. And I figure, you know what, if I can rattle that and yank that back out of folks who are in their adult stage of life, maybe, just maybe, somewhere in there, we can bring out that childlike faith again and start not settling, not accepting the status quo, but dreaming again, going for it again, which is the metaphor of Cannonball, right? Children see a body of water, man. They don't give a crap how cold or warm it is. They are in there, cannonball all in. What happens to us as adults? We tiptoe up to it. We stick our toe in. I don't know. It's pretty cold. I just did that on spring break vacation down in San Antonio. Shame on me. I should have just seen the dang water, busted out my childlike faith, throw caution to the wind, and say, here I come, cannonball. That analogy, that metaphor plays into adult life. What are you currently, dipping your toe in, kind of barely leaning into it? And again, that's the audience that I'm trying to speak to, is to reignite that inner passion. The last question, is the how. How will I go about sharing my message? This, keep in mind, everybody, this is all the pre-work. Okay. How will I go about sharing my message? Or in other words, what flow would I use for each chapter? That's how I applied that question. So every chapter for me, okay, there needs to be a flow. Here's how I structured mine, the how. Every chapter, number one, starts with a kid story that emphasizes the success principle of that chapter. Then I share a personal story from my life that also emphasizes the principle of that chapter. So story, fun, loving, might make you laugh, might make you cry, whatever. And then the third step was lessons and principles. So no more storytelling time. This is where we get crunchy from leadership and business and personal growth to really deep dive on the success principle. So kid story, personal story, sub chapters that really hit on in a business tonality on what it is I'm trying to communicate. And then to wrap up each chapter, I have 10 questions to consider, kind of like a review or recap, but in the form of a question, as well as a stop and complete exercise. So I didn't leave cliffhangers. This book can be chapter by chapter by themselves, or you can read it from front to back. So kid story, personal story, lessons and principles, questions to consider, stop and complete exercise. So there's a whole free downloadable workbook that's going to come with the book that people can actually complete those end of chapter exercises. My style is very much learn and do, learn and apply, not just learn for learning's sakes. So again, if I'm speaking to you and your book is very tangible, like John's, of how to do something, this works. If your book is more, fiction based, then just tune me out here a little bit, but take what you like, leave the rest. So what I did, you guys, after I answered those questions and had my chapter flows, then I still have them right here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. This whole stack of mess is all my originals, because I like saving stuff like this because it's kind of like a time capsule. So you can see maybe here, this is my original sketchings of those questions that I just gave you. 5 W&H questions and my answers to them. Then on a separate sheet for all 12 chapters, this is literally what I did. I put the chapter in the middle. This is reverse. Chapter in the middle, and whatever sub chapters and points I wanted to make off of them. So this is the intro. That doesn't really count. Let me give you a better one. Here's a hot mess express. Can you see that? This is an example of one chapter. The chapter title was always in the middle, and all these little things coming off of it was what I took with me to the cabin. So when I was ready to write chapter 12, I just busted this thing out and like, yep, okay, this is, because when I see it, I know what I want to say. But there was a lot of time and energy, believe it or not, that went into every piece of these, every one of these I have for every chapter. Some of you are like, oh my God, yeah, no, I have a 4% C personality. Those of you familiar with the DISC, I have 0 detail or organizational skills, but I have vision. Okay. So some of you, that just probably gave you anxiety. All I'm saying is, in advance, all the pre-work will make you or break you. I promise. I don't care how you do it, if it's bubble charts or mind maps or just bullet points on a Word doc. The more you put into it up front, the easier it will be for you with the moment you're ready to start typing. Go ahead, Jody.
I had a question, Jake. I came up with 6, but I noticed on your little chart that you had combined 2 of the questions. Was it how, what, or what, why?
This one you're talking about?
Yeah.
So I've got how, I can't read it. What, who, when,
Yeah, there's 6.
where, why, and how.
Okay, so there's 6.
Yeah. Did I say 5?
Yeah.
I did. And it even says 6. Thank you, Jody.
Sorry, I'm that anal person that says, wait,
No,
that's
I told y'all, man, this is going to be very informal. I'm just a normal dude sharing. I don't have this thing figured out. Obviously, I can't count either. So there's that. Thank you for catching that.
no, sorry. I was just like, how did I get messed up?
No, you're good. So here, each bubble represented a subchapter topic I wanted to highlight. Underneath each chapter, I also noted the main points I wanted to hit on from there, or the stories I wanted to share, the examples I wanted to use. So let's say chapter 2 is all about taking action. Well, I need to know, you need to know, what about taking action? What are those sub points, those sub chapters you want to make sure that you speak to? Highlight those, but take it a step further. This is one of the things I'll share later that I would do differently next time. This is it for me. This is what I went into the field of battle with. What I realized when I was there is it wasn't detailed enough. I had to stop and start and go research or go Google something. If you put more energy up front in detailing in bullet points or whatever you need to do, the topics, the main points, do the research on any quotes you want to reference up front. So when you go sit down to begin typing, it just flows, man. You don't have to stop or interrupt that thought process to go research something or find something. Okay. So hopefully this is making some sense. I put those chapters, so I ended up with 12 success principles children teach us about business and life. I started with 15. I didn't know, but I ended up with 12 because I merged a couple and they became a little redundant. So you just give yourself a little grace there. But I did put them in an order that I thought made most logical sense to the reader. So each kind of chapter built off of each one in a way. But I did not, hear me, I did not create a table of contents until I was done. Because I just knew there was a chance that I'd switch things up. I was going to merge some chapters together. So go into it with an order in your mind map, in your outline. But I would encourage you not to do a table of contents yet in the event that things move and change around. Okay. I even did that format, by the way, for my introduction and opening the book as well as the conclusion. So for the introduction, just to hit on that real quick, I read this somewhere and I think this is what I did. There's some steps. Step 1 for the intro, like the very first thing that somebody opens up and reads. You can congratulate the reader and introduce the topic. Second, clarify the problem that the book solves. Get on their level, in other words. Again, if you're writing a fictional book, I don't know how this applies. I can't speak to that. Then step 3 of the intro, tease them with a sample or a story of what the book offers or is going to feel like in order to hook them. So I've said basically, congratulations, and here's what the book is about. Here's what the book solves. So I'm now on their level, like, yeah, this person gets me. And then you can tease them with a sample or a story of what the book offers or how it's going to feel. From there, obviously in the intro area, you can highlight your credentials and why you're qualified to speak on whatever it is. Give your bio, I don't know. Okay. It was stressed to me, especially on the back cover by the folks that I hired, to not say just what the book is about, but how it's going to make them feel. Like, what are they going to walk away with? What desired change can they expect to get from the book? So some of those things need to be compelling on the front end to capture their interest, to continue reading it, especially if they're picking it up off a bookshelf or something. All right. So that was it. I mean, there's a lot that I'm skipping over and we can take questions later to deep dive, but I did all this pre-work. It was weeks and weeks leading up to this, that all these little bubble charts and the stack of papers that I have represents in the prep work. I cannot emphasize enough. The prep work is where it's going to make you or break you. And I'll get into some of that again at the end when I talk about things I would avoid for next time. So now we'll transition into the week. Here I am. I'm at the cabin on the river. Take what you like here. Here's some just little nitty-gritty stuff. Number one, I packed a bag with all the necessary things. So I had this whole stack with me, paper clipped together, the outlines. I brought my computer with me, obviously, any printed notes. I mean, I was ready for battle. So I had all my stuff, plus, of course, a suitcase full of clothes, maybe not a bottle or two of wine. I'm just saying. Okay. I mean, we gotta relax a little bit. From there, I checked in at 4 o'clock. That's how most Airbnbs work, just like a hotel. I couldn't check in until 4. I used that first day, please hear me on this, that first day to get in the right mindset. I did not worry about writing. I couldn't check in until 4 o'clock anyways. I'm going to enjoy myself that first night. I'm going to get my head right. So I went to the store. It was a town of like 300 people. They had a little mini grocery store. So after I got my stuff in the Airbnb, I drove a few miles up to the local grocery store, bought myself some groceries, got myself some drinks for the week. I was packed and ready for battle, man. I organized myself for the week that night. I cooked a great steak for dinner on the grill, had some wine, like I said, and I went to bed happy and in a good state, free of distractions. That's how my first day, really it was a half a day, was spent. Didn't even worry about opening the computer and writing anything. Okay. However, the next morning, game on. I told you earlier, I find inspiration with views, my settings, my surroundings. I love water. I love the rustic, mountainy kind of thing. So my camp was set on a 3-season porch. I specifically chose this Airbnb so I could be out on this 3-season porch that overlooked the river. Here's what I did that night, or going into it. I set a pace for myself. So I ended up, as I told you, having 12 success principles at the end of this thing, plus the intro, plus the conclusion. So I chunked it down that if I was there for a whole week, I knew that if every day I did about 3 chapters per day, that I wouldn't feel rushed and I'd be on pace to finish by the end of the week. I could actually enjoy myself and just stick to a rhythm, find my pace. This helped it go from big and overwhelming to very manageable. So that first morning, I set an alarm every single day because I like rhythm, I like routine, I need to get in a zone. So every day I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I got up, I showered, ate a quick breakfast, and I got to work by about 6:30 or so every day. I stopped for lunch to unplug and refuel. I went at it until about 6 or 7 p.m. until I was finished with my goal for the day, which again was about 3 chapters. I allowed myself to unwind at night by catching up on messages, watched a little TV, went for a walk outside, relaxed with dinner. Okay. So, but really nonstop, basically from 6:30 in the morning to about 6:30 at night. These were 12-hour days consecutively. My eyes wanted to fall out of my head towards the end. Anytime I felt myself losing focus, and that will happen, expect it, or like writer's block, some of you might call it, I got up and I moved around. Motion creates emotion. So I got up, I moved around, went outside, whatever I needed to do to get back in that state. What I did not do was check my phone. That would have gotten me out of state. I gave myself, I mean, everybody's weird and different, right? I gave myself a little pep talk to stay focused. And I don't know about you, but aside from environment, I get in the zone quick when I put on some music to listen to. So I had music on in the background whenever I needed to kind of reset. But I wasn't going to stop for long if I could help it. And I certainly wasn't going to check my phone and all my notifications and miss text messages and all that crap. Okay. Just, this is for me, on average, it was scary accurate after a while. On average, most chapters, from start to finish, took me about 2 to 3 hours, like clockwork. like clockwork. So if my goal was to complete 3 chapters a day, I'm looking at a 6 to 9 hour, day of literal typing, not just in between stuff. It got to the point where each chapter was scarily the same exact amount of time. But I quickly learned it was a good rule of thumb that for me to do that. So without proper preparation, I can tell you right now, it would be much longer. So warning again of the prep work. And my prep work wasn't perfect. You saw some examples, but even at that degree, it kept me on a 2 to 3 hour pace, and it would have been significantly longer than that had I not gone into it somewhat prepared. Throughout the week, I was a machine. I became a robot with the exact same schedule that allowed me to find that rhythm, building the muscle memory very quickly. As the week went on, I began to feel it. It became a drag around days 5, 6, and 7. It's one of the hardest yet most rewarding things I've ever done, for sure. It came down to the wire, where I had to check out of the Airbnb on the final day, and I asked the owner if I could stay one more night, but I couldn't because they had somebody else coming in. So I consulted with my wife, Carissa, and we agreed that I was not going to leave. I was not coming home. Actually, she encouraged me more than anything. She said, "You're not coming home until this thing is done." Okay. So I ended up getting a hotel room one extra night. I needed that extra time. I had one more chapter plus the conclusion to finish. I was not going to go home until this damn thing was done. So I had to check out of the Airbnb, drive to a hotel, checked into the hotel, cranked out the last chapter and conclusion that night so I could go home and look my family in the eyes that next morning saying, I didn't leave you for a week just because. I said I was going to do this thing and I came back with it done. Okay. My advice to you on that would be to do this as well. Give yourself a little grace or wiggle room just in case. Some of you who have traveled to business conferences in the past, you might know what I'm talking about, right? Maybe you plan on staying an extra day versus feeling like you got to race to the airport, or in this case, race home, right? Give yourself a buffer day just in case. Even if you are done, you might want that extra night just to like unwind for a hot minute and get your brain back to the real world, let alone wrapping up loose ends, like I said. So finding professional help, and then we'll get into what things I would do different and then take any questions y'all have. Finding professional help. I asked on Facebook for recommendations. So again, some of you to each their own. You may or may not want, when I say professional help, I'm talking about a professional publishing company who also does proofreading, editing, cover design, all of the stuff. Okay. So all I did was went to Facebook because all of you are amazing friends on there and I got a lot of recommendations. I initially thought I would self-publish this thing, but I decided against it. The reason I decided against it is because now I understood the amount of time and energy and work that went into this damn thing and the years of intention I had behind it, the importance of the legacy in the first place that I wanted to leave. I talked myself right out of self-publishing that thing. It was too important to nickel and dime now when I did all this work over all those years and how important it was to me to have a finished product I'm proud of, to do it on myself from here. And I got to tell you, I'm already, cliff note, I'm already tired of my book. I hate my book. I'm kidding, right? But I have reread and proofread this damn thing so many times. I'm tired of reading my own book. The most recent edition I sent back yesterday. That was my 5th time, and I'm still finding things, you guys. You can tell a difference in quality when somebody straight up self-publishes it and when you have the help of professionals. Holy macaroni. Knowing what I know now, going into this completely blindfolded, I wouldn't even dare think about doing a self-published book anymore. Unless it was like a little flimsy booklet sort of thing, fine, whatever. I'm talking a legitimate book. My Lord. And if that's not enough to scare you, if you're referencing any quotes or any articles, you better know, go back to like high school English. you better know how to properly cite people and what you can and cannot use. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a potential lawsuit. Let me just tell you, it better be proprietary to you and your intellectual property, or know how to properly cite people that you're stealing the information from. Okay. Don't play around with this stuff. Okay. So back to it. To each their own, just my choice. I found her name is Charity. I get no anything from it. I have been so pleased. She was from a referral from a friend of mine. Some of you may know Hank Sorensen. He's that's who he used to write his book in real estate. And she has been wonderful. I've already recommended her a few times. So if anybody wants that connection, let me know. I get nothing from it. I'm just happy. Go ahead, Martha. Oh, you're muted.
So is Charity an agent, an editor? Like, what's her role?
Yeah, so Charity is the owner of a publishing company, and she has a whole team of graphic designers. They all specialize in their craft. So she's like the project manager, and then she delegates proofreading, editing, graphic design to the team. Yeah. So I signed an agreement with them. I think it's, what is it, LifeWise Publishing? Sorry, Charity, if you're watching this, I can't remember. Signed an agreement, and the expectation was 5 to 6 months. This was a 5 to 6 month project. So if you're a high D personality like me and you're impatient, it's like, oh, come on, man. I just worked my tail off on this thing, and now you're telling me it's going to be another 5 to 6 months. Definitely delayed gratification on that, but worth it. But that included everything from multiple edits to proofreading to the cover design on the back and the front of the book, interior layouts, launch plan strategies, etc. Well worth the investment, having been through it. All right. P.S. I learned, and I'm not here, I can address this, I guess, individually if you want, but let's just say I learned what questions to ask because I didn't know regarding intellectual property rights, book sale royalties, the process in general. So whoever you use, if you do hire somebody, get with me if you need a few extra pointers or tips of questions to ask, because there's a lot of different publishing companies that do things a lot of different ways. And with mine, when her job is done on May 1st, it's done. It's 100% mine. There are no royalties, all the things that were important to me, she is able to deliver on. The biggest thing to be aware of, as I mentioned earlier, is copyright issues. Is it truly your own unique thought or something you got from someone else? This can be very, very tricky. So either being completely original or knowing at least what you can properly cite versus not when it comes to other people's intellectual property is huge. Okay. I don't want to rip 95% of my book is 100% original to me. My stories, like nobody else can duplicate that. But anytime I did reference Zig Ziglar or an article that I quoted to prove a point, like you got to make sure, even if a definition, I had to cite Webster's dictionary because I gave the definition in one spot about what does willpower mean. But if you quote or reference anything, man, you better know what you're doing. Okay. All right, let's get into the last piece here, which is what I would do differently or mistakes to avoid next time. The common theme for sure is going to be I would have spent more time gathering quotes and sourcing things on the front end. I knew every chapter or every success principle, what I wanted to talk about. What I didn't do that I had to pause and do is at the start of each chapter, I provided a quote just to kind of kick off the theme, right? Well, I didn't do that research in advance. So here I am ready to start chapter 8 about whatever the heck it is. And before I could start typing on chapter 8, I had to take it to Google or go to my memory bank and say, oh, what was that exact quote by, Zig Ziglar again? I would have done some of that preliminary stuff up front so I had it already there and I could just flow right into typing. Okay. Again, I would have gone and been a whole lot more robust with this stuff, the points I wanted to make within each chapter or each sub chapter. This was a great start. All these little ideas and these little bubbles. But once I'm sitting there and I'm looking at like, oh Lord, what did I mean calm and storm? What did I mean lead by example? What did I mean care no versus no care? I was so vague to myself that when I see it, like I get it, I know what I want to say, but I would have gone in greater detail with more bullet points underneath or something like that. Is that making sense? I hope. Just be thorough, be thorough. Front end, front end, front end. So when writing time comes, you're not stopping for anything. Okay. The preparation is everything. Be able to show up, look at what you had noted previously and know exactly what you want to say so your fingers can just do their thing. There's nothing worse than breaking up or stopping to a thought to go research something, find a quote, whatever. Okay, here's another big one. A lot of people will tell you this, but I've lived it. Do not do everything in your power not to stop and reread. This is hard. I caught myself very early on wondering if what I was typing even sounded good. Did it even make sense? Okay. I think that's pretty normal temptation. Here's the thing though. Trust yourself and know that the editing process and proofreading process is there for you. This is a rough draft. Your job, please hear this, your job is to get words on paper. You can worry about the perfection or details later, right? You'll have plenty of time, trust me, to critique yourself. You're going to reread this thing just as many times as I have and probably make that half-hearted joke too that you're tired of your own book. I'm telling you, get your initial thoughts out as best as you can. It still needs to have flow and thought and be good, but don't type a chapter or a paragraph and go back and reread it. Just keep it going. Keep it going. You're going to have your chance to go reread, move. I've moved paragraphs. I moved chapters. I went back in and inserted lines and new paragraphs. You're going to have plenty of time to do all that, man. Just get the words out. That is your number one job. Stop worrying about the perfection of it. Here's some advice that was given to me. You can have different thoughts on this, but the advice given to me and I've upheld is don't let anyone else read it. That is hard. I have not given it to my mom and dad. My own wife has not even read it. Okay? There's a reasoning behind that. They're not in your head. This is yours. It is a personal choice, but the more opinions or people you allow to read this thing when it's still in draft form or the original manuscript form sets you up for unwarranted criticism, other people's words beyond your just your own, and it can cause you to kind of just go off the rails. It is counterintuitive, I know, but there is a method behind this. Okay, tell your family they can read the final product, but that's hard. I went into this thinking it was a good thing. I intended on having the 5 closest people to me proofread and read the original manuscript. And then I was told, don't you dare. And then here's the reasons why. So take it or leave it. It's up to you. But that was advice given to me. And I've just took the advice. I'm very coachable. Couple more. Know your style. I referenced this a little bit earlier, but for me, I knew I was an all or nothing kind of guy. Even though it was painful at times, so to speak, I knew if I locked myself in a room for a week that I could crush this thing. And my thoughts would actually flow easier than had I just done it, write 10 pages a day or write for 30 minutes a day. I can't do that. So for you, if that doesn't work, find what does. Be true to you. I know myself. I don't do well with spurts. When I become obsessed with something, I'm in it, right? But for you, if it is though 30 minutes or write 10 pages a day thing, I don't care. You do you, but find it, understand it, and how you work best for something like this, and then do that. Last thing, have fun. Good Lord, have fun. Don't forget to enjoy the journey, you guys. I was taking pictures, I posted selfies on social media just to bring people along this journey with me. Have fun. Take pictures, journal about it, document this thing. This is historic for you, right? I signed the guest book at this person's Airbnb. You're probably thinking I'm a weirdo, but I even said, hey, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said, I'm here to write a book. I did it. Here's the name of the book. If anybody's reading this right now, go look it up and check it out. But enjoy the process. Be visible. Be proud of what you're doing. It's not one of those things where it's like, I say I want to lose 20 pounds, and if I don't, I'm shamed. No, man. I mean, I'm right here just blabbing at you guys because I did something and I'm damn proud of it. If anything I said makes sense, cool. I'm just sharing. But this isn't your entire life's work bottled up into a book. Don't forget to enjoy it and realize how truly special it is. I now see things differently. When I buy a book, right, I just read this one. Awesome book, by the way. $100 Million Leads by Alex Hermosi. Holy crap. Awesome. These 271 pages right here that cost me, I don't know, $20 or something like that, probably. This is a dude's life work. 271 pages of his 40 plus years of existence bottled up for me to read. That is special. So whatever it is that you guys have on your heart and on your dream list to write a book about, my goodness, especially if it's more like the personal growth, development, leadership stuff, again, nonfiction, that is your life experience. Don't discount that. It's magic and people want to read that. So I would just say, again, don't forget to enjoy the journey along the way. Because I found myself at times, needed to snap out of it and like, oh, this is so, I mean, you'd want to talk days 5, 6, and 7. Woo. Like, Jake, don't forget to have fun. This is for your daughters and legacy and all that crap. Not crap, but all that stuff that you got to remind yourself about, because if it starts feeling like work and it feels like a grind and you're waking up early and staying up late and have fun. Enjoy the process. So guys, that's what I have. I don't know if anything here, I didn't come equipped and prepared with just the perfect thing. But I'll happily take questions. If you have any specific questions, did you ever battle imposter syndrome? Oh yeah, John. Oh, I'll tell you, yes, I did. A lot of my imposter syndrome actually happened and ultimately sorted out in the prep phase. I didn't have imposter syndrome when I was typing at all. But yeah, I had imposter syndrome initially because I'm like, who am I? But when I snapped out of that and said it doesn't matter, because Jake, you're doing this for your children. You said you don't care if you sell a single book or not. Then I couldn't mess up. There was no imposter syndrome. I'm just sharing my experiences, my wisdom, my perspectives, and I stopped caring if I was right, and I stopped caring if I was ever going to make it on a New York Times bestseller list, and I stopped caring if I was going to be the next Tony Robbins, and just said, the person I'm really talking to is my daughters when they're grown up. I can't mess this up. So I hope that helps, John. But I definitely went through that phase, no doubt about it. Approximately how much did it cost, Laura asks. I assume that's about the professional help. So I will share that just because I wish people shared it with me. So my suspicion is it depends on the size of book and the length therefore of the work. Mine, according to them, was on the larger side. Go figure. I have a lot of things I want to say. So I think the book is actually, in terms of like 6x9 book pages, going to turn out to be 230 to 250 pages or something like that. That's a pretty good book, So for me, that 5 to 6 month window cost me $6,000. $6,000 worth every penny. For you, if it's a different project, it maybe is only a 2 or 3 month. I don't know. That's why you need to speak with Charity or whomever. I'm not here quoting you prices. That's what they quoted me based on the scope and size of the project. So $6,000. And by the way, she allowed me to go on a payment plan. So I've been paying her $1,000 a month for the last 5 to 6 months. More manageable than here's my $6,000. Yep, you're very welcome. Okay, Martha, what you got?
So given that this is so much energy and life experience and meaning and impact and all the things that you said, culminating in this book and this amazing thing that you did that we are all proud of you for already. How do you reconcile, and I'm asking this not just to challenge you, to challenge and deal with my own fears.
Yeah.
Sales are a representation of how many people and souls that you get to help with this work. So how do you reconcile, I don't need to sell any, except I want to change and help as many, the lives and help as many people as possible.
I love your question. And I'm always going to talk real. If you guys that know me know I don't have a filter. I'm just going to say. So I think that's a really important distinction. Okay. This giving ourselves permission that the why can evolve, just like we talk about in our own lives and business. We have the big why. In fact, that's chapter 1 of my book is about the big why. Our big whys change. Well, so is true for this. When I'm telling you that the reason that I wrote this book was not at all influenced by money, fame, recognition, none of that. I mean it. Like that's 100%. It was about my kids and leaving the legacy. And, and now that I've gotten the bug, the itch, I see how this can, I'm very passionate about the content and the fun nature of my book now that I see it in its final-ish form, where the evolution is I'm starting to care, not about the money, but about the impact. I feel a sense of responsibility now to get this in the hands of people because I think this can actually really help some folks. I really do. So it still is pure in that regard, but now I am turning the focus, which is why we have this book launch team and other things. I'm like, hot diggity dog. This is good stuff, if I may say so myself. I think that I got to get this in the hands of people now. That is a representation of how many people you've impacted, whether it's money or number of book sales, is a byproduct of impact. So I'm cool with it. Does it build my personal brand? Sure. Does it maybe get me on a stage to speak somewhere? Sure. I don't care about that still. But I do care about getting this in the hands of people now, whereas originally that wasn't really my focus. Does that help?
And no, it does. And would you still choose the same publisher? Would you still go the same route now, knowing if you want to make the maximum amount of impact with your work, would you have made any different choices there? With love and light to where you were at the time, like the more.
Good question. I'm going to write. I mean, this is addicting, right? Now I'm going to write another book. And it'll probably be a real estate book, or I'm going to do it again. This is awesome, right? Just need a breather for a minute. I would totally use Charity again to answer that. I can't say anything. I know nothing different, but I can't say anything that I would do differently with that process. For the next one, because it probably wouldn't be so much about legacy kids, the what some may consider the fluffy stuff. It probably would be about sales. It would be about, hey, if I write this, I mean, we come from a similar background. Gary Keller wrote the MREA book as a means to influence other, that's a lot of, I'm writing the book so I'm seen as an influencer or an authority on this topic so I can get stages, get opportunities, so forth. Like I could totally see myself drifting in there where it's a little more self-serving. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. But would I do anything different? Now what I know and have been exposed to of how to launch a book, I would really put more emphasis there. Like there's a way to do this. People can rig the system. So when you see, and I'm not taking things away from those who have done it, but when you see people saying, "Oh, I'm an Amazon top 10 bestseller," there's a way to do that.
You can
And
buy
that's
300
part
of your own books on the first day.
Yeah, they're exactly. There's a way to stack the deck, and I would be more about that moving forward than I gave credit for it this first time. Just cuz. Um, can AI
just-
play? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just wanted to share a couple of things. I'm still me and I can't help it. I just for the people that I saw who were still trying to figure out what to write or what part of your life or get started. So I've written 190,000 words. So I wrote 2 books so far.
You go, girl.
So I'm in a very heavy editing phase right now. And I wanted to, and if Jake, it sounds like your process is you've been able to use, yes, workflow and just sort of more work kind of structure, like break it down the way you would with a work project.
Yep.
Whereas my process has been more of like that creative flow and having it come from your intuition, which is another kind of whole world and a little bit more like artsy kind of, the creativity side. So for the people who are still trying to see like what is trying to come out of me, I highly recommend these 2 books.
Oh.
One is called The War of Art, which is all about like how to fight basically the gremlins every day, trying to get in your way of writing and putting something on the page every day. And this book, The Artist's Way, is about spiritual creativity and writing come morning pages every day and journaling so that you just get in touch with yourself. And my first chapter of my book just came out in my journal one day for reading. So I just wanted to share those resources.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. That's got to help somebody here. Mine was, I definitely didn't have resources to read things like that. What I did do, however, I don't think I shared this earlier, is the good news about delaying this for 8 painstaking years after saying I wanted to do this was through those years, literally 8 years, I would email myself things that my children were doing and the lesson I extracted from it. So I had emails from 8 years of stories that I would have forgotten about had I not emailed myself. I mean, I'm busting my phone out in the middle of the night or at the soccer game, like, oh my God, this just happened. I could use this for the book. So I was collecting the stories. Turns out it was a good thing I didn't write it for those 8 years, because a lot of those stories I wouldn't have ever had if God works in mysterious ways, right? If I hadn't procrastinated, I'm kind of in a weird way thankful I did. So whether it's reading books like that to consume and get your energy and your message out, or in my case, just delaying, but turns out that worked. Find your way. John asked, can AI play a role? That is entirely up to you. It's funny you should ask that, because I got a beef with AI kind of thing, but not really. So in my first open the book, like all the preliminary stuff, I said, author note, none of this book use artificial intelligence. I said, this is perfectly imperfect, knowing the pain and all the time and imperfections of it. Every word spoken is mine. So I actually made a point in the very opening of my book to highlight that I did not use an ounce of artificial intelligence for this thing, because again, what was most important to me was it was Dad's words for my daughters. Now,
I wonder about on the editing side.
I don't think so. They have real people reading through, finding mistakes as I am finding mistakes.
So let me ask you something. Is it frustrating to you that somebody just says, yeah, just do AI, let AI write your
Yes.
book? It's frustrating, right?
But to each their own. I mean, but I'm not
with you.
judging. I'm too prideful is what it is, man. I have too much of an ego for that. I
Right.
don't want the easy route. Not for this book. Would I use AI to help me with an outline or a chapter or something moving forward? I don't know. Maybe. But this one was a passion project for me. My heart is in every word, perfect or imperfect. Judge it all you want. I don't give a shit, but it's my words. It's not a robot.
I
And
write a daily post on Facebook, and I get people oftentimes asking, do you use AI to write this? No. It's kind of insulting, or maybe it's cool. I don't know, maybe think it's good enough.
well,
They think it's AI. I don't know.
you
But
sound so good, John. It's like
yeah,
people
it
can't
must
tell.
be, it
Yeah.
must be fake.
Yeah. Those of you, if you go that route, go there. It was a choice of mine, so much so that I made a point of saying that in the start of the book. So nobody ever discredited the time, the work, the effort that I put into this damn thing. I felt compelled to make it known no AI was used in this, at least not on my end. Because even with the edits, John, I don't know the editing team. I think it was manpower, but even though they're my words, they didn't change anything. Like hey, Jake, this doesn't sound right. I had to go back and retype it in my words, or I'm the one going and making the suggestions to
So do they
replace
send
this
you
word with
notes
this
like,
word.
what the hell are you saying here? This doesn't make sense.
Occasionally, yeah, it's like, hey, this is a word salad. Like, what do you
Right.
just succinct, make it more
Start cutting.
succinct.
Do they cut or they tell you to cut?
They tell me to cut, and then they told me to cut, and then based on what I regurgitated, their editor would make a recommendation of saying, basically, what about this? Does this capture your words, but in a more succinct way? So it's not a run-on sentence for days.
Mhm.
So it's very a team back and forth. I mean, a lot of back and forth. That's why it takes 5-6 months with this particular project.
Comma, semicolon, spelling.
All of it. All of it. Literally yesterday, I found couple things, just an example. I found a sentence on page 94, where the sentence started with, it is important. Even after 5 renditions and other people's eyeballs on it now, it is important. Every I was capitalized. This is the random crap you find, man. And I found an actually important detail where they call it SSH. Basically, it's a subchapter to a subchapter, where the title was all caps. And then later in the page, the title for the same thing was only the first letter of each word was capitalized.
Got it.
Like these inconsistencies, the more times you look at it, start to pop out at you. And how did I not catch that the first 5 times? But I caught it the 6th. You know?
So
It's
did the book
human
get
error,
shorter?
human nature, and that's part of kind of what makes it cool too. It's like
For
there's
sure.
gonna be screw ups.
For sure.
If you
Did
guys
it
read
have
it
to be-
tomorrow, I guarantee you'd still find a typo or a missing comma.
Any newspaper editor will tell you that. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't think it's pride, it's authenticity. Thank you, Martha, for reframing what I was saying there. It's authenticity. So John, I think if I'm capturing, I think you're kind of saying what I'm saying is I want to be perfectly imperfect, but at least it's going to be my words.
Yeah.
And not some robot just I didn't want this to be easy. I mean, ChatGPT could write you a whole book right now if you wanted it to, where I would potentially use ChatGPT or something like that down the road. Maybe is in the outline stage. Hey, ChatGPT, here's what I want. I want to capture the 10 lessons playing baseball taught me in life. And if it can spit out like a chapter, almost like a table of contents, cool. Like maybe I would use it for that. But the actual words, I don't think I'll ever use a robot to type. I'm just too authentic or prideful for that. And that's a personal choice. I'm not knocking people that do, but I don't want the easy route or the quick, easy button. This is blood, sweat, and tears and life's work, man.
Did they change any of your stuff? I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
Like when I write my little posts, I'll put it into ChatGPT to fix the grammatical.
Sure.
I just don't know it. But oftentimes it'll change some words that are where I intentionally make a word there because it captures what I'm trying to do here, and
Yep.
it'll change it to the more proper, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it changes everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't like it.
So I don't like it. Do they do that? Do the humans do that? I mean, there's some need for that as well, isn't there?
Here's what they did do. Okay. This is probably the single greatest, I can't believe I haven't said this until now. Single greatest value I would give credit to the publishers or the editors, whoever, whatever titles, the company I hired.
It's why they win awards.
Well, right. I was, how should I say this? I was inconsistent because I wasn't crystal clear on who my audience was. So check this out. This is really important. What they helped me with is one paragraph would be
Yeah.
you. Hey, you need to do this. And then the next paragraph was, well, we. So I was inconsistent of referencing who my audience was that I was talking to. Am I talking to you or am I talking as if I'm with you? Does that make sense?
That totally does.
What they went through and did manually, not artificially, is make sure the consistency throughout the entire book is it's a we, as if I'm with you, not I'm barking orders at you. That right there was worth the money because it was a complete shit show.
Yeah.
It was good information, but I was all over the place of who am I talking to?
Yeah. I think as a disinterested third party, they see that fairly clearly.
That's what they get paid for. I mean, that she has a team specifically for that. And then once we made it through that, then she had a team specifically for proofreading, just looking for commas and spelling and different things. So it's a very specialized deal as it works through the assembly line.
Cool.
So that, and I told them in advance, I don't know who I'm supposed to be talking to. Am I talking to the individual reader using you? Like, hey, I'm talking to you, or am I acting as if I'm with them and it's us or we? And that's the route we ended up taking.
Right on. Good.
Yeah. That's really big time stuff that again, my job is to get the words on the paper. It's their job to help make sense of it and make sure all that kind of stuff is lined up. What other questions, guys? Any other questions? And I'm not looking at Facebook, so sorry, Facebook, if you're out there. This has been very helpful. Thank you, Laura. I look forward to reading all of your books, by the way. But
Can I ask you a future question?
yeah.
So let's say you write another book and it's a real estate related book.
Okay.
And let's say that real estate related book is a tool for stages.
Yep.
And for influence and whatever, as you said. Good. Does that change anything? It is what it is, right?
It is what it wouldn't, for me at least. Well, okay. It could change some things. For me, it wouldn't change the content. I'm going to give what I have to give. Like this book, Alex Hermosi, he doesn't hold back. He's giving you all the goods because he knows the 80-20 rule applies, that 20% of us are actually going to take it and apply anything.
Right.
And he's worth $100 million anyway, so he doesn't even care. He doesn't see any of us as competition.
Right.
So I believe in giving the goods away, right? If I wrote a book like this, or how to earn 6 figures in your first year of real estate, I'm going to give you all I got to give you. But where I would change things, if it was more about landing stages or consulting opportunities or whatever, is the calls to action or where I want them to go from here. Go sign up for my newsletter on this website. Go follow me on YouTube and get more of my content. Hey, if you like this, sign up for my membership. Like it's what you want it to come off of here would change, but I wouldn't change the content of the book. I would change the strategy of how I use the book.
So let me ask you another part then. You have a personal book that you're just now coming out with, fair? That's a personal thing.
Yes, it is.
A business book would be a business book. Are you running 2 lanes or is the personal thing done?
Not sure, because I said that
Mhm.
jokingly, because for all I know, there's a Cannonball 2.0 waiting me, because the lessons I've learned for my daughters up to the age of 10, oh shit, I don't know what lies ahead, but I could write another book for the teenage years and what I've learned then.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Because I'm battling the same thing. It's like split personalities.
Right.
Two different brands.
Yep.
So I get going here, two different brands, whatever that looks like, right?
Yep.
You have a business brand and you got a different brand. Or is that effed up and you should have one brand?
No, no, great question. I spent a lot of time reading and researching and talking to other people about this. It is, depending on what your goals in life or business and impact are, there are two brands. One is your personal brand. I have miserably failed at building my personal brand, and I'm trying to make up for that. This book, I think, could help build my personal brand. Who is Jake? What does Jake believe in? What ideas does Jake have to share? You know, like that's personal. The locker room, in my case, is not me. The locker room is a business entity. That's a separate thing. So if I wrote a real estate book, it's going to be for the locker room. But a book like Cannonball is a personal brand play.
But they don't cross commingle.
They can. They
That's where it
can.
gets effed up for me.
Yeah, you might be overthinking it.
Probably.
People, what's John Maxwell say? People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. You got to get people to know, who the hell is John Moran and why should I care?
So are there two websites? Are there two social medias? Is there two whatever?
For me, there is. I'm going to have jake-dixon.com, because jake-dixon.com was already taken. So jake-dixon.com is going to be my author speaker page. You want to book me for your next podcast or your next event, that's going to be where that is. Separate from tlrnation.com, which is my business page for the locker room.
Yeah.
So, and I had to create a new, I haven't gone public with it yet, but I had to create a new, Facebook like page.
Right.
Yeah. Where
And
I'm a public
YouTube
figure kind of
and
thing, where it's,
stuff, yeah.
yeah, it's Jake Dixon, author, entrepreneur, speaker, versus my own personal page or the locker room and all these other freaking pages that I'm in charge of. It's just one more thing to manage.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. And for me, I push
two lanes going parallel or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
potentially. I pushed back on that originally, but because of the nature of my book, I don't reference my children's names. I reference my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, because there's a lot of creeps out there. And that's also why I was told, don't put your personal Instagram or Facebook pages in the book for people to go follow you or whatever, because there's a bunch of weirdos. That's where I post pictures of my family, because it's my friends that and people that follow me. But I don't want some weirdo from wherever going and liking and following my personal page where I'm sharing pictures of my kids.
Yeah.
Which is why I only gave my new speaker author page that I can control the content with. I mean, this is the world where you have to think about that weird stuff. I hate it, but it's, go ahead, Martha.
John, I can see you're struggling a little, and I get my heart is, what's coming out is like, figure out what you want to create and start working on it, and then just take those few next steps, and then the rest of the path will unfold. And you are your whole self, whether it's professional, personal, all of those things. You can be one brand that has different messages, but just try not to, this is like this book. I think your mind's trying to like figure out the whole path, which is overwhelming. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But just taking the steps and seeing what first messaging and what material wants to come out will help shape how you're gonna market and brand that.
She's spot on. Yeah. And giving yourself the grace that it, like I said earlier, it evolves. I created this for the reasons I've already stated, but now it's kind of created. Now I look at it as, this could be a tool. I never looked at my book as a tool. It was a passion project. But now I can see, what could I do with this now? So John Moran, I don't want John or Martha to know Jake Dixon equals real estate. I want to be separate from that because I have other things I want to do entrepreneurially that are outside of real estate. Like that's not my identity. That's part of what I do, but it's not who I am.
So is this your first foray as Jake Dixon? So there's
Yeah.
some control over that. You don't have a bunch of stuff out there already that
That is correct.
I got you.
Yep. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm being coached on it and I'm here for it to learn. So, but you think, man, businesses come and go, but your brand carries with you. It doesn't matter if I launch this business or that business or that business. Once I've successfully built a personal brand, that goes wherever I go. If the locker room were to close shop tomorrow, it's done. It's over. It's kaput. And I'd have nothing to show for it. Right.
Right.
But if you build your personal brand along the way of building businesses or whatever it is you do, that will carry with you no matter where you are.
So Jake, have you got a coach for your personal branding?
I do not. No, not right now. But I'm hot to trot and I'm on the scent. Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool.
I would add to that as far as the branding goes. I mean, that's basically the premise behind influencers.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that they built their personal brand on whatever it is that got them going. And because now they have a following, and my sister accidentally did this, she has a following of 200,000 people now. She accidentally blew up, not really accidentally. It was years of work and so on behind the scenes. But she went viral one day. And then it's just gone crazy since. And she's living a life that she's like, I don't even understand. I didn't picture it. This isn't real. I can't even believe I'm here. But because she has a following, then opportunities now follow her because she has the brand and she is the brand. And then it's a job to become selective about, and that's where the integrity and so forth comes in, selective about who do you choose to, represent, because the whole world then comes to you and recognizes that you have the power and the influence of having a following of a certain group or type of people that have followed you. They realize their product or their niche or whatever is that group. So they're not going to bug you and say, can you promote this? But you now, because it's your brand, you hold that power to still say yay or nay on how you want to go forward.
Spot on. From what I've researched on my own, books I've read, audios I've listened to, things, spot on. Yep.
And that becomes a job in itself. Like you said, you got to have a team and find people that even help with that. And I mean, they found all the technology that supports that, and that as they're doing live, they've got to, they have to pre-do workflows that say, if you ask this or type this, here's the answer, because they can't even keep up. Like you said, you got to go back and answer your Facebook questions today.
Yep.
It creates a whole new set of jobs and challenges, but it's part of the growth process. You can't get ahead of yourself and worried about that when you're not even there yet today.
I heard beautifully said. I heard a mentor of mine years ago when he was asked a question, something to the degree of, how big do you want this business to get of yours? And I always felt like I had to have an answer for that kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm a terrible visionary or a terrible leader if I don't have a goal. But his answer helped me. And some of you know who this person is. He said something to the effect of, you know what? I'm willing to allow it to get as big as it needs to get. I thought that was a beautiful answer. So I don't know how many books if I sell 200 books, great. But I'm willing to sell as many books as it needs to happen. I'm not going to be the lid to that. So if out of this comes the Cannonball community, 100,000 people strong, cool. I'll figure out what that looks like then. But I'm not going to set myself up where, say, if I only sell 200 books and it is what it is, I'm not here for that. But if it becomes that, I'm not going to be the lid to a powerful community or speaking at whatever con, exists because they read the book, they wanted me on stage for an hour-long keynote about it. Like, I'm here for it, but I'm not chasing it or disappointed either if that doesn't happen. You just never know. Your book could go viral. You could be the next freaking Dean Graziosi or however you pronounce that dude's name. You don't know. When you connect with your audience and you provide something of value, and your heart's in the right place for the reasons you're doing it, I think good things and opportunities and doors open. So,
Right on. Cool.
all right, guys, any other questions? I hope this was good, our time together.
Appreciate it, dude.
Excuse me.
Very
I
good.
didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Appreciate it. Very good.
Thank you. I hope you got something. I don't know. I'm still decompressing from it all myself. If I gave you anything today, consider that a win. Otherwise, it was fun to hang out, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to all of you going public, making the decision, publishing that book because the world needs it. And I'll be one of the first readers for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later.